Now let's talk about Twende. Because that was the second album. Yeah.
That was the second album.
Yeah.
So I mean, like the title track from Twende. I'm back. This is 2006. I've been back 3 years.
Oh, you've been back 3 years already?
At this point, yeah. And so after Sawa Sawa came out, my producer Christian and I started getting together every week to do some songwriting sessions, right? Where we would begin like from a groove base, right? So like a song like Twende went through so many different versions, right? What had happened? I had met Oliver Mtukudzi at the Kora Awards.
The late great Oliver.
The late great. Why late? I feel so bad about that, you know. Anyway, so I'd met him at the Kora Awards in 2002, and I had mentioned him in my acceptance speech.
You won the Kora Award.
I won the Kora in 2002
for
best East African act, best East African artist, with a gospel singer called Henry Mutuku as well.
I remember that. Yeah,
she won as well. So I had come across Oliver, his music in Boston, right? And so in my speech, I was like, why am I hearing about Oliver Mtukudzi in Boston, right? When as such an African great, I should be hearing about him in Kenya, right? I should not be coming across him for the first time in a foreign land, right? And so my speech and it was like there needs to be more African content on African radio is what I was saying, right? This is 2002. It's like 98% or more was American, right? And I wasn't. I mean, like Gerald Levert, who was in the audience as well that night, was there like, brother, I never felt so offended in all my life. You know, I was like, no, I'm not advocating a ban, right? I'm just saying equity. You know, I mean, you're not going to hear. At that point, I was like, you don't hear me on Kiss New York, right? But it's like it's all American here, you know. So balance is what I was saying. So Tuku and
especially here in Kenya, we lacked the balance. I say that because when I went to SA in 2001 and I switched on the radio, me I'm like, I'm in AC, I'm expecting to hear Asha nini. It's just and you wonder why they were driving those kind of cars, because they had taught their own people to love themselves. So I do get when you talk about here, we knew every album of Asha's.
Exactly. But I think a nice balance is what we need, because sort of protectionism doesn't help anyone. If we say in Kenya, only Kenyan music, right?
No.
I want to play gigs in Uganda as well, NTZ, right? And around the world. I want to play in Hong Kong, right? And so it's not about that. It's just, yes, support your industry, not at the exclusion of everybody else, but support, you know? So
Gerald Levert came up to you and he's like, brother.
Yeah, Gerald Levert was there like, brother, man. I was like, every time in Africa, I feel so welcome, but you, man. I was like, you know, please relax the body, right? So anyway, so Tuku comes up to me, he's like, wow, man, thank you for mentioning me, you know? And so over the course of the next bunch of years, in fact, the next year I went and played at a festival called Haifa in Harare, Harare International Festival of the Arts, right?
So at this time, had you started doing outside Kenya?
I was playing a bit, but in fact that year I think we played a festival called Mundial in Holland, and then soon after that we were playing Haifa, or was it the other way around? And then he took me to his studio and we recorded a version of Nchi, Kitu Kidogo with me singing in Swahili and him singing in Shona.
Yo.
Then I lost the CD. But it was just a studio demo, right? And so we kept on back and forth, and he was coming for a festival. I think it was Echo Fest in 2006. And I was there like, this is the moment, right? And so actually Mike Strano played a huge role in making sure that he actually got to the studio, and he wrote his lyrics on the spot. And the producer of the album, Christian, was actually in Kenya at that time. And we tracked Tuku, and it was Cheers. And then the next time he was in town, we did the music video, you know?
Now the one with Steve Ominde.
Exactly, the Steve Ominde produced. Yeah.
Bongo Venas, zunguka neni. Kuja nami,
tupendane tuache kuzozana. Watu wa upendo, hauna dui, hauna kifani kaka.
Takabata na savate. Pole pole going slow, but still we're keeping time. We're facing forward, looking up, forgetting what's behind. Twende Africa, hey oh. Twende twende, kuja nami. Pande pande, pande pande. Weongoza nikufuate. Zunguka neni shino narudo kupatana kutitibu dirire. Twahitaji upendo ili tusonge mbele. Kutambura kwedu zichida hati narudo. Ukosefu wa upendo ulete dhiki ya mambo ni twende.
What?
Yeah, so it was cool. It was cool. It was a long process with that song, you know, but it finally happened.
Yeah. So that album comes out, and again, a very funny moment. So now by the way, this time you've started gigging. We're going to come back because we've skipped the theater side, but that's a conversation that I just want it to be given its airtime. I remember Eric was gigging every Thursday or something at
Club Afrique.
Club Afrique, yes. Then after Club Afrique, is it Club Afrique the one which was at museum? But there was a time you were also gigging in town.
That club was called Club Sound.
Club Sound, yes.
Club Sound. So what had happened was there was that rationale that, excuse me, that musicians shouldn't play often because it overexposes you is the rationale, right? And I don't know. I went So Tuku was playing every single weekend that he was in Zimbabwe, right? I saw that man play in another venue in Harare. It must have been like a 2,000-3,000 seater. So it's like a KICC plenary hall.
Yes.
You know those. It's like it's a huge room and it's got another level up there, and it's got that concrete that says this is a government building. You know that kind of style. Yes. And so that guy would start to he starts to play a guitar line. The audience knows exactly which song it is. They're singing the guitar line that he's playing, and like I was there with some other musicians, and they're like, we didn't come here to hear the audience sing. Came here to see Tuku. I was like, nigga, you missed that thing by a mile, right? This is why we do what we do.
Exactly.
You know, as in Tuku is in these guys' hearts to this level, right? And then Shiba and I had gone to Senegal, and we had watched Youssou play in his club. Youssou.
Yeah.
Man, first of all, us guys show up at 10 o'clock politely, right? The audience doesn't come in until 2 a.m., right? So we're there. I order a beer in the little French that I know. Now, because Senegal is predominantly Muslim, right?
Yes.
That guy goes and finds a beer. A store there. By the time he's coming, he's just dusting it off because how far he's had to go for it, right? So we're just chilling in the club, chilling. The audience starts coming in 1:32, right? His band comes on and they start to play, right? 2:30, the man himself comes on stage. Chapa's gig, chapa. At Kedo 3:45, you're hearing another percussion solo, guys are katika. You look at the stage, Youssou, he has bounced, right? We were going to meet him in another car park over there where guys go and have now croissants and coffee, right? but basically he had fungered another 90-minute set,
Yeah.
and he does that. At that point, it was like maybe 2 or 3 times a week when he's in Senegal. I was there like, overexposed ni nani?
Because ni wewe.
Yeah, ni wewe.
I wish it's me.
Yeah, you've got to play. You've got to play, right? And especially, if you can't only wait for gigs to come, right? You've got to create
your own gig.
You've got to create your own gigs. And the thing is, with those regular gigs, people know where to find you.
Yep.
Right? And so if they're just looking for a plan,
yep.
Yeah, you've presented one, right? If you've got guys who like your regulars and maybe they have got out of town guests or people who they're just trying to convert to this whole live music thing, they know where to find you, right? And then also for you and your band, you become such better musicians playing that stuff that you discover your songs, and it becomes like a rehearsal, a paid rehearsal, right? It's every week. It's 2.5 hours, 3 hours of music, right? The way, as in like the songs just become that much better. Then also, as far as audiences are concerned, like if you watch us today, right? The next time we're seeing you is maybe 3-4 weeks later, right? But audiences are huge, right? So 200, 250, 300 guys at a time. By the time you're playing to the 20, 30,000 guys in Nairobi, for instance, maybe, who like live music, it rolls over. So there's no boredom. Yeah. Right? So for me...
And I realize sometimes even when you're a musician or you're a listener, you don't mind listening to the same songs of the musicians. Just because you've sung Sawa Sawa, it's not that when I come the next gig, I'm like, come the next time, I'm like, don't sing Sawa Sawa. In fact, I even want you to sing it.
With music, people respond to familiarity. When that's my jam. That's when you go to the dance floor. You know what I'm saying? Music needs that. Yeah. So for which is now why we even sort of revived Live at the Elephant as even a weekly thing.
When I saw that, when I saw Live at the Elephant coming back, I'm like, this guy. First and foremost, Nairobi doesn't have gigs. I mean, Nairobi does have a lot of different gigs, but yours, it's weekly. From the back end of doing gigs, I know the amount of work it takes to do a gig before the tip happens and it becomes, everybody knows it. So I do respect the work you have put to do a weekly gig. It's not easy.
It's not easy. I have a good team. In fact, the reason we even took a break is we lost Mavo. Mavo used to be our Live at the Elephants guy, right? Then he went off on his own. Yes. God bless him, and he still plays in my band, right? And so
he's your drummer.
Yeah. And my right hand man in many ways, So when he left, now there was a gap that we couldn't fill. But now I have a bunch of these guys are so young. When you put two of them together, their ages don't even come to mind. Yeah. So I've got a team of some 4 young men who are really making Live at the Elephant what it is. Yeah. And I'll come back and talk about the mentorship, because that's, I mean, even from Atemi, she considers you a mentor. But let's talk about this 2020 album. So again, you're back to creating an album. Why are you creating an album and people now are doing singles? Because as a songwriter, I have a body of work. I have a thing that I want to say, right? There's no reason why people can't take the singles that they want, but I think that putting out singles is pretty cool as well. They exist on their own, but I guess in some ways I am not a songwriter who I'm always going to put out albums, right? But I think it's a good thing. I'll probably also put out some singles that are just albumless. Yes.
For what was your thought process, and where were you with this 2020? I hear where you are with Sawa Sawa very clearly. Where were you with 2020?
I guess with 2020 it was like a Pan-African sort of I wanted a continent-wide sort of conversation. I'd now come into contact with the Yusus of the world. In fact, Yusu and I have as in like there's a conversation that has stalled, but Yusu, we're going to do that song. Ata kama nini, we will do it. And so I just wanted to have a Pan-African conversation about African issues.
Yes.
Right. That's what that record was. But also, there's a bunch of traditional instruments on that record, you know. And so I had started learning how to play the nyatiti when I was at KU, right?
You learned how to play the nyatiti.
Yeah.
I mean, you entered that process.
Yes. I was studying African music as my masters. I only did a sem only because we'll talk about KU. We'll talk about KU. But then, so I was learning how to play nyatiti. I was learning how to play orutu, and so because I wanted them to inform my writing, right?
I get.
So there's a song on there like "Too Far From Home." That's me on nyatiti. There's a song "Dek Dek Dek" I think has an orutu on it. You know.
Can you sample "Dek Dek Dek"?
As in play it now.
Yeah. I'm sorry, but also because Dek Dek Dek, I feel now that
underscoring you. Go on, brother.
No. Dek 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 has that Pan-Africanism. I feel like there was some Yusundu influence on that. Am I right or am I wrong?
You're right, brother.
Can I get a name in?
Yeah, I mean that song actually. Yeah, man, it's got that kind of nice 12/8 feel that you get in a lot of West African music, but Fahrenheit 9/11, right? There are two things that really inspired that song. Fahrenheit 9/11, the notion, you know the Michael Moore film,
yes,
right?
Yeah,
the notion that a people can be so sort of blinded and beguiled into sort of going into war. But also the images from Tiananmen Square that came, I think it was like 1989. That, remember when there was pro-democracy riots or protests in China, right? And there's a picture of someone standing with shopping bags in front of a tank.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So those two images were where Dek 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 came from. So in fact, I was on tour in Switzerland at the time, and I was sitting in front of the TV, just finished watching Fahrenheit 9/11, and I grabbed my guitar and I started to play these chords, right? And so, and you get to this place and you're there like, I got to the chorus and I was like, da da da, and I was like, so I was just like, I don't have a lyric for this, right? And so Dek 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 was a placeholder, right? That word, because
because it's not really a word.
It isn't a word. It isn't a word. In fact,
I'll put
my Jambo friends are there like Dek is cabbage. Or it's like it's a type of it's like a spinach. So so anyway, I actually looked for a word to replace it. It never came, right? So I was like, hang on, let's embrace this madness, and they're like, okay. So it's in a made-up language, etc., etc. Exactly. Yeah. But people get it, you know. It's a chant, you know, and so
that's so cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the inspiration that comes from your songs.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, it's I like the back end story. Okay, so hey, boss, you have to tease us with it.
Okay. In a made-up language. In a made-up time, I met a made-up people with a made-up cry, sing Dek Dek Dek. In my fabrication, on the town's main street, stood an army general, just trying to make a speech, but the people would not listen. They weren't listening anymore. They'd lost too many children in the stupid war, singing Dek Dek Dek. Singing Dek Dek Dek. And then the tanks began to roll, but the people would not move, and the tear gas began to choke, but the people would not move. They said, come and get me, you blood suckers, come and get me, I won't move. The words I'm singing will live much longer than the skin I'm living in. I am wind now.
Boss, I've got a gig idea for you.
What's that?
Do an acoustic gig, just you and the piano, and tell the backstory, play.
Okay.
I'm paying in advance. This thing is insane.
Thank you.
Try it, man. In fact, guys, comment and let us know.
Yeah.
I'll share this with Eric.
Yep. Brought to you by A-Star. A-Star presents.
Probably not one of the biggest songs, but for me a personal favorite because just of your collaboration with Kanji, the Mabawa song. And then I remember even in the Sawa Sawa lyrics, there's a Mabawa. How did that come?
Yes.
So it's, in fact, it's not outrightly there, but
yeah. And that, I think that was a mistake by me. I should have had Kanji sort of do like his own verse on it, and maybe we should retrack it. And because it's a really cool song. In fact, I know a couple of people who are there like, that's actually my favorite song on that record, you know. So Kanji and I had met up. You know, I'd heard of Kanji even before Milele, right? I remember, I think David Mageria was leaving a Five Alive rehearsal because there was this kid called Kanji playing a concert at the All Saints. There's an Alaka Hall. I'm like, I never heard that kid, right? This was, I think Kanji must have been like maybe 18 or 19 at the time, right? And so when we both got back from college, and I'd played a gig that Milele were playing at as well in LA. Well, they're like, okay, cool, let's get together, do a thing. And at that point, we used to rehearse. Me and my band used to rehearse at the conservatoire. There's a dance studio upstairs. And I was working with a guitarist called John Were, who I co-wrote Adhiambo with, right? And Kanji and I said, hey, let's get together and work on a jam. And so that's kind of where that came from, you know. And the thought for me was the thought that you can be messing around. It's like you can be messing around in your relationship and you lose the most precious thing to you, right? And that you're out there sort of asking God to give you wings to fly so that you can find this love that you've abused and has left you. That's what that song's about.
Yo, that's deep.
I hope so.
That's deep.
Siku zangu hizi ni 40 na mchumba wangu amenitoroka. Alinishika nikionja tunda marufuku, midomo yangu na asali. Oh yo, mepotea njiani, namtafuta simuoni, ameniacha hasiani. Mola nipe mabawa, nimtafute majangwani. Mola nipe mabawa. Yes, Mola nipe mabawa.
Okay, Twende. For those of you, there are many more songs. Just go and get the album. All this stuff is on iTunes.
Oh, everything. And every sort of digital portal.
That's it. So it's online. Get it now. It's available.
Yeah.
and sample the songs with this whole new understanding. So now you guys release this album. What happens again?